Hello everyone, my name is Elijah David, minister of the 12th hour Apostolic Sabbatarian Congregation on Zion 12th hour. In the Liberty Hill, Texas, today is June 8, 2013, or it is Sibian 30, 2017. We'll start our 5th service today. This is a record on the Sabbath day with a song entitled, Yahweh will take care of you. Be not dismayed, for happy time. I will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, I will take care of you. I will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. I will take care of you. Through days of toil, your heart gets fair. I will take care of you. When dangers fear the path to sin, I will take care of you. I will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. I will take care of you. All you may need, He will provide. I will take care of you. Nothing you ask will be denied. I will take care of you. I will take care of you through every day, on all the way. He will take care of you. I will take care of you. No matter what may be the test, I will take care of you. Name everyone upon his breast. I will take care of you. I will take care of you through every day, on all the way. He will take care of you. I will take care of you. Righteous Nation Part 2. We're going to continue on. We're going to bring in the Republic of Texas as being definitely the foundation and place where this righteous nation is going to come forth here in the earth, in the United States, especially here in Texas. It says, Isaiah 66:8, who hath heard such a thing, who hath seen such thing? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. Verse 9, shall I bring to the birth and not cause to bring forth, saith Yahweh? Shall I cause to bring forth and shut the womb, saith thy Elohim? Rejoice ye with Jerusalem, and be glad with her, all ye that love her. Rejoice for the joy with her, all ye that mourn for her, that she may suck and be satisfied with the breast of her consolation, that she may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. For thus saith the Yahweh, Behold, I'll extend peace unto her like a river, and the glory of the Gentiles like a flowing stream. Then shall you suck, you shall be borne upon her sides, and be dandled upon her knees. As one whom his mother comforted, so will I comfort you, and you shall be comforted in the Jerusalem. And when you see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like an herb. And the hand of Yahweh shall be known toward his servants, and his indignation toward his enemies. For behold, the Yahweh will come with the fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with the flames of the fire. What does it mean he's going to come with the chariots? He's going to come with flying saucers. Now let's turn to Psalms 68, and let's read about some more chariots here that David's pointed out. Remember, we're contemporary with David now. It says at verse 17, For the chariots of the Elohim are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Yahweh is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. Why so many chariots? Let's go to Revelation, I believe it's 16:19, and let's read about something else here. I believe it's, no, I'm sorry, it's Revelation 9:16. So it says, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. Now, the horses are Yahweh's servants here on earth. The horsemen are the angels that come from heaven to join these horses. There's 200 million mentioned here. This is the influx into Yahweh's army. So, how did they get here? They got here in those 20,000 chariots here in Psalm 68:17. The chariots of the Elohim are 20,000, even thousands of angels. You get that? Thousands of angels? All right, now let's go back to Revelation 9:16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. Well, these horsemen are these many angels, and they give the number here in verse 16 of Revelation 9. And that number mathematically equates into 200 million. And they have joined 200 million horses, meaning leaders of Yeshua's army here. Okay, now do you understand the prophecy now of Joel chapter 2, where he says that Yeshua utters his voice before his great army. Okay, so now Joel chapter 2, let's just start reading the whole chapter. It says, Blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Yeshua cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. As a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even unto the years of many generations. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burneth. For the land is as the garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses. Now, what do we read about that in Revelation 9:16? This goes right along with this. It says, 200 million horses with 200 million horsemen riders. Those horsemen are those angels. They're in Psalm 68:17. Okay? That comes in those 20,000 chariots. Right? The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of the chariots on the tops of the mountain shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of the fire that devours the stubble, as his strong people sit in the battle array. Remember the story about Elisha. When his servant with him one day, they were bound up between some mountains. The enemy had encased them in some mountains. And Elisha's servant became alarmed. He says, "Oh, what are we going to do, Master? They've got us all closed down." And Elisha prayed to Yahweh and said, "Open up my servant's eyes that he may see." And he opened up his eyes, he saw chariots all over the mountainside. And Elisha said, "These are the chariots of Elohim. It's come down from heaven. This is his great army, the invisible army." Okay? And then when those enemy come in to take Elisha and his servant, because it was after Elisha, because they had heard that Elisha was interpreting things that they were saying in their own camp, and relaying the messages unto his people about the enemy that was saying things, and it was related to Elisha, and Elisha went and told them what the enemy was planning against them. And Elisha was giving away information, and when they found out that Elisha was the one doing this, they went after him. And so Elisha prayed that day, and he said, "Yahweh," he says, "close these men's eyes, but they can't see." So here they come in, and they became blind. And Elisha took them and said, "Now if you follow me, I'll lead you out here." So they followed Elisha out, and he led them to the land of Israel. And then he opened their eyes. And all of a sudden now here the enemy was in the land of Israel, surrounded by their enemy, the ones that they hated. So, this is the way that Yahweh works. He comes to earth with his army, and these 20,000 chariots. Here in Psalm 68:17. Alright, now it says in Joel 2, it says, I believe I read a little earlier that no, I didn't. It says in Joel 2, verse 6, "Before their face the people shall be much pain, all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like the mighty men, they shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one trust another, they shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall run to and fro in the city, they shall run up on the wall, they shall climb up upon the houses, they shall enter in at the windows like a thief. For the earth will quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining." Now this was all going to happen when Yahshua comes back and takes charge of this army. And the Yahshua shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great, for he is strong. Now, what I want to do is I want to repeat what I just read. This is Joel 2. Let's start with verse 10. "For the earth shall quake before them. For the heavens shall tremble." Now notice it said heavens, not the heaven, but the heavens. Now in our heavens above us in this solar system, there is at least 11 other planets that goes with this planet here, making it 12 altogether. And those planets have suffered the same dilemma that this earth suffered when it went into sin. They also went into sin. And the sin has eroded our solar system and destroyed all these other planets. Now Yahshua has got, Yahweh has got to take and recreate this whole solar system. That's why it's called the heavens above us here in this solar system. It's not talking about the heaven of heavens, where Yahweh and the Son live. This is talking about the heavens above us here in our solar system. So it says, because we know the scriptures teach that one day, whenever he creates this earth anew, he's going to create this whole solar system anew. And all these planets in our solar system have all been corrupted by sin. So when sin permeated this earth, it permeated the whole atmosphere in the heavens in our solar system. But I believe it's only confined to this solar system, because the heavens are going to be destroyed too. Why just the heaven? What are you talking about? The heaven. It's talking about those planets in the heaven. How can you destroy thin air out there? How can you set thin air on fire and destroy that? Well, it may be that's possible to create a fire here in our atmosphere. But when you have planets that are going to be destroyed and recreated along with this earth, then that's talking about the earth shall quake before them, and the heavens shall tremble. For the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And the Yahshua shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Yahshua is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? Now, it talks about that same language here in Malachi 4. And let's go read it. It says, Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of Yahweh. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers unto the children, and the heart of the children unto the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Let's read the first verse on of Malachi 4. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven. This is the same thing here in Joel 2. And all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of the Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall, and you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Yahshua of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel, that includes us, we're part of this all Israel, here in this 12th parabolic hour, with the statutes and judgment. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Yahweh. And that's who I represent. I represent this Elijah the prophet. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers unto the children, and the heart of the children unto the fathers, their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So, there you have it on that. Let's go back to Joel chapter 2, and let's go to verse 12. Therefore also now, saith Yahweh, turn ye even unto me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your heart and not your garment, and turn unto the Yahweh, Yahweh your Elohim, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of the great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. Who knoweth if he will return, repent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering unto the Yahweh your Elohim. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, and those that suck the breast. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and the bride out of her closet. Let the priests, the ministers of the Yahweh, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, Spare thy people, O Elohim, and give not thine heritage unto reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, Where is her Elohim? Then will the Yahweh be jealous for his land. Then will the Yahshua, this is Yahshua's land, because he paid a price for it, when he comes back and inherits this earth, and he redeems his people and the land, and pity his people. Now why is he jealous for his land? Because this land has been designated from the foundation of the world to be a holy land. Texas, along with Israel, is designated to be a holy land. That's the reason why there is a purification that takes place in both lands. That's the reason why there is such efforts made to bring forth a purified people in these lands. Okay? Yea, the Yahshua will answer and say unto his people, Behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and you shall be satisfied therewith, and I will no more make you a reproach among the heathen, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill favor shall come up, because he hath done great things. Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Yahweh will do great things. Be not afraid, you beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring, for the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength. Be glad then, you children of the Mount Zion at the 12th hour, and rejoice in the Yahweh your Elohim, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, the latter rain, the first month. Okay, now as I've given you a lesson just the other day on that former and latter rain, the former rain began with the apostles in the first century. And it was given moderately. And then they fell away, and the former rain stopped. And we didn't get any more former rain until it started falling in 1844 with the little Advent band. And the former rain fell for up to 1890. Ellen G. White brought inspiration for 45 years to the little Adventist movement. That represented the former rain falling moderately over years and periods of time, long years of time. Okay, and then my sister White was there in 1890, and the Adventists rejected Jones and Wright as righteous by faith. Then the former rain stopped falling. And Ellen G. White says, I have no more new light to give to you. There's no more rain to give you until you make use of what you've already got. So there was not another a piece of inspiration came from her pen. She wrote reproof and admonition for the next 25 years and then died in 1915. And so the former rain took on also a 40-year fast. From 1890 to 1930, Ezekiel 4 says there's 40 years fast for Judah. So there's no former rain falling during that 40 years. And then Isiah comes along, and he starts the rod, the second step of the genuine movement of Seventh-day Adventist, and the former rain began to fall again. Now keep in mind that the former rain was designed to fall moderately over the years during the judgment of the dead period for the Adventists. The first phase of the judgment started in 1844 as the judgment of the dead. And so you didn't need any former and latter rain to ripen any grain for any harvest of the living, because we are dealing with investigating and harvesting of the righteous dead in the bookwork in heaven. And it took those 6 books or seals over a 158-year period of time from 1844 to 2002 to accomplish this fact. And then, as I told you before, the reason why it says the former rain falls moderately, meaning it's given for a period of time and then it stops. Given for a period of time and stops. So it stopped in 1890 with the Adventists and the first feeding pasture, and that's another thing. Each one of those feeding pastures, Bashan, Carmel, and Gilead, Adventists represented the first feeding pasture, Bashan. But what happens when the rain stops falling? The feeding pasture dries up. Well, Bashan dried up in 1890 because the former rain quit falling. Okay? So in 1930 it began to fall again, and so we began to have fresh provender then, a new light, inspiration, a new prophet, a new message for the Advent. And so now the rain began to fall moderately again, and it fell for 25 years until Isiah died. When he died in 55, that rain stopped falling. Okay? And it didn't start falling again until 1970 when Brother Johnson came along and took up a new, the third step of the genuine movement of Laodicea for the Advent with a new message. He was a new messenger, and so he picks up the former rain of the 3 angels' messages, and guess what? That 6th book of seal opened. The 6th one. There had been 6 books. The first one was opened in 1844. The 6th one was opened in 1970 with Brother Johnson. Okay. And this is interesting. So the former rain began to fall again moderately in 1970 with Brother Johnson. and it fell moderately for the next 33 years, straight up to 2003. How do I know? Because I was there. And I know that Verlasan said, well, we have the latter rain. V.T. Hardip had the latter rain of truth. But if V.T. Hardip had the latter rain of truth, how come Verlasan said in 74, because of his great disappointment on what he prophesied about the kingdom, didn't happen? He said, well, I'm no longer going to use the rod and Sister White, the spirit of prophecy anymore, to try to harmonize with my writings. I ain't going to use them no more. Well, what is Verlasan saying? He said V.T. Hardip had the latter rain. So what is he saying? I'm not going to have this latter rain falling on me from the rod. So, all he had was the three angels' messages in. He's not going to continue on building on the V.T. Hardip, then all he's got left is to go back to the three angels' messages, which he did. Of course, he was given new light on restoring the sanctuary and the five angels' messages, and he restored the fourth and fifth angel. Only in voice. But he didn't know what he thought he was restoring it to start the judgment of the living in 1970. But he had one more step of the judgment of the dead, which was for the next 33 years, and didn't know it. He thought he was in judgment of the living. Now I want to show you something here. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you something even better. I'm going to go and to Hebrews chapter 8. I'm going to read you something here. And it's going to be amazing what we're going to learn here. We're basically bring this in now. All this stuff comes out in one day in all different directions. And then all of a sudden, we find things that fit here and there. Now, in Hebrews chapter 8, it says, it's dealing with the new covenant. As a matter of fact, we're going to read the whole chapter of Hebrews chapter 8. Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such an high priest who is sit on the right hand of the throne of the majesties in the heaven. Now we know a high priest in the earthly sanctuary has one job description. He only goes into the most holy place on the Day of Atonement. He doesn't work, I don't believe, in the sanctuary unless he works as a common priest during the year. Let's go ahead and read about it. Only on the Day of Atonement does the high priest go in. He's the only one qualified to go into the most holy place to get people's sins blotted out. Let's go on. Hebrews 8 verse 2. A minister of the sanctuary. Now let's back up and reread now. Of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum of the matter. We have such an high priest who is sit on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in heaven. How come he's sitting on the right hand and he's not carrying on his work in the first department as a priest? Okay, because he's a high priest. You're going to find out that a high priest don't have to work in the sanctuary every day. Okay. Now, and so he sits at the right hand of the Father. So he's a minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Yahweh pitched and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. Now notice it says every high priest, not every regular priest that works every day of the year in the first department, but every high priest that only goes into the sanctuary, the most holy place, on the Day of Atonement once a year. So for every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore it is of the necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on the earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according unto the law, who serve unto the example and shadow of the heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of the Elohim when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according unto the pattern showed unto thee in the mount. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry. Yahshua now hath obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is a mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. Okay. For finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come, saith the Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel, and with the house of Judah. Not according unto the covenant that I made with their father in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant. I regarded them not, saith the Yahweh. Now, Brother Johnson started out in 1970 with this new covenant right here, that Yahweh has enjoined unto the New Testament people. This new covenant. The New and Living Way, Hebrews 10:20. This was enjoined unto everyone that was appointed over the sanctuary. Brother Johnson was appointed over the sanctuary in the services in 1970. He was the last king of Judah to be appointed over the sanctuary services in Israel. That was in 1970, 2003. Okay? So he said, and he said he will, if you don't do it, he said he said, I won't regard you as my people. So he said, I won't regard you. I'll read that to you again. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant, and I regard them not, saith the Yahweh. All right, now let's just review the record that the last king of Judah that had this covenant renewed to him. Let's just review the record of how this man handled it, because I was there. I witnessed every bit of it. I witnessed how he handled that. He was so happy that he was in charge of the sanctuary. He said, Yahweh visited me nearly 2 years ago in '68, and he says, he told me to teach my people my government. Okay? And he agreed to. So he said, I took a 3-month journey up to the mountains, and I talked to Yahweh for 3 months, walking along the river, meditating, talking to him, and him telling me how to formulate this calendar. Creation calendar. Putting Yahweh people back on true time. So, Yahshua personally renewed his covenant with Brother Statutes Johnson. This new covenant we're reading about here. Now, he said, this covenant's not going to be according to the covenant that I made with their father in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regard them not, saith Yahweh, because they continued not in this covenant. Now, as long as Brother Johnson taught and moved ahead and continued in Yahweh's covenant, then Yahweh regarded him as his leader. And Brother Johnson did that for 7 years. It took him 7 years to complete the secrets of the creation calendar. 1977, he was through. And then when he got through getting that all done, he settled back on his knees and become complacent. He said, well, we have Yahweh's government, we have the true time. Year to year, we go. And we have the feast days and festivals carried out year by year. We have a true instrument every year to go by. We know the true time to do them every year. So we're just going to sit back until Yahshua comes one day and brings 144,000 and join him. So let me show you what's wrong with this. The sanctuary had been set up and restored in 1970's creation calendar. And we had the atonement once a year. We knew the correct time to keep it, and we kept it. We knew the correct time to have the Passover, and we performed our vows and had the supper every year as a memorial of his great creation. Brother Johnson would read chapter 52 of the Desire of Ages. Every year he'd read that, where it says Yahshua would stand at the point of transition between two great economies and their two great festivals. The first one was about to pass away. He was about to institute in its place that festival which was become the memorial of his great sacrifice. And that was Yahshua's supper. He showed how the transition was made. And he read that every year at Passover. So we we had the Pentecost every year. For 32 years that I was there, I had 32 atonements I went through. I had 32 Passovers. I had 32 Pentecosts. But every year. But you know what? The sanctuary service teaches that when you're following the ordinance system of true worship, when you have a sanctuary restored among you, then you're in the judgment of the living, or you're supposed to be. And if you are, then the type shows under the law of Moses that if anybody didn't keep and perform his vows on a daily basis, and the males were required to come up 3 times to the sanctuary on the annual feast days, that was at the Passover, Pentecost, and Atonement. They were required by the law of Moses, that they had to show up to account for their families. And if they didn't show up, their names was taken out of the book of records and they were cut off from Israel. That was on the Day of Atonement. Whoever didn't show up on the Day of Atonement, his name was taken out. So they had judgment every year. If you didn't show up, then your name was taken out. And you was cast out of the camp of Israel. And the children of Israel knew who they were. And those people had to leave town. They had to get completely out of the camp of Israel. They had to move on somewhere else. They couldn't just stay there and live among their brethren. If they didn't come to the atonement, they were gone. But as you know, down at Kermit, we had an atonement every year, and Brother Johnson taught that we had entered into the judgment of living. And that if we didn't get our sins blotted out on the Day of Atonement, that we would be cut off. That's what he told us. You know, we had 32 atonements and there was nobody cut off. And they were practicing sin openly. We all were. I was part of it. I didn't know any better. We just thought all you had to do is show up on the Day of Atonement, fast that day and confess your sin, and be sitting in your pew at the 9th hour. When Brother Johnson said, now this is the blotting out of sin, make sure you're in your place. Make sure that you're prayed up and paid up, he said. And he said, you'll get your sins blotted out. You just have to believe that by faith. Well, I know that after it was over with, 32 years, that nobody got their sins blotted out. But then how'd they live on? How'd they live on as practicing that sanctuary service? But in Scripture it says they were adding sin to sin, year after year. Well, how come Yahweh didn't cut them off, and how come He spared them all that time? Mocking the sanctuary, saying, well, I kept the atonement, so I got my sins blotted. No, you didn't. Yahweh's unmerited favor, which is His grace, and His long extended mercy. He bore for 33 years with them, allowing them to add sin unto sin, and not get their sins blotted out. At the end of 33 years, though, guess what? When the 33 years was closing up, we had an atonement in Kermit, 2002. And that one was for real. Because we had the true judgment of the living began. Brother Son said the judgment of the living began in 1970 with us. No, it didn't. How come we set up the sanctuary and practice it like it was? Because we were repeating the history of that people down in the wilderness when they came out of Egypt. Moses raised up the tabernacle in the 2nd year after they come out of Egypt. But they didn't keep the Passover for 40 years in the tabernacle. They just had the tabernacle there, and Moses taught them the mechanics of it. But they didn't get their sins blotted out for 40 years. And because of it, when it came time for the 40 years to be up, what happened? All those responsible for practicing sin with the sanctuary in operation, they were cut off and their carcasses left to die in the wilderness. Because the real judgment day came, the Day of Atonement, the one that counted. And they were cut off and destroyed. Only their descendants, 20 years and younger, it was promised that at the end of 40 years they would go into the land under Joshua, new leadership. Well, how did they do that? How did they escape when they wouldn't follow the sanctuary system any more faithfully than those that got cut off? How did they escape? Because the promise was made to them at Kadesh Barnea at the beginning of their sojourn, that if they would that they would enter into the land under Joshua. That was just a promise made, and so those that 20 years and younger knew that they had a promise, that if they made it through the 40 years, in the wilderness, that they would be the ones going to the promised land. Well, how did they come out of Egypt? Was it because they were keeping feast days? Was it because they were following the sanctuary system down in Egypt under Pharaoh? No. They came out by a promise of Yahweh. And he said, all I'm going to do is deliver you by the blood at the Passover. Just obey the blood on the signpost there. Get behind those doors where the blood is, and you'll be delivered out of Egypt. Many Egyptians went with them because they got behind the doorpost of the blood. They weren't delivered because they were sanctified by following this full sanctuary system down here. They were delivered because of the promise of Yahweh said there's a mandate for my people to come out of the bondage of sin under Pharaoh. All they got to do is be obedient to the first command, to follow the trail of the blood. The blood led them out of Egypt, into the bond. Then Moses was commanded to go up into the sanctuary and to the mount and make a pattern, showing a pattern of the tabernacle, and to build it when he come down exactly after the pattern and put it into operation. But before he come down and do that, he found them apostatizing and cavorting. So he had to deal with judgment upon them. He had to deal with that. And then he went back up to the mountain and he had to repeat performance. Another 40 days up there to be taught about raising up the sanctuary. And for real. So he came down the second time and he raised it up. It was in the second year. Had to wait till the second year because of all that stuff that they did in the first year, apostatizing and making trouble. So now Moses raised it up, and now it's only good for them. Well, like Brother Johnson, he raised it up also. But it was a mockery to heaven. Because Brother Johnson set up according to the pattern and shown him it from heaven. Exactly according to the pattern. He followed it right to the letter. It was a mockery to heaven what he did. So Yahweh says, well, because you represent antithetical Esau, and you wouldn't do no better if you could because of who you are. He said, you're an Ishmaelite. You're born of the flesh. You'll never be born of the Spirit again because you're not born of the Spirit. You don't understand spiritually how to perform your vows and teach your people to be sanctified through following the sanctuary service in a spiritual way. Because you're not qualified. You're born of the flesh, you'll never be born of the Spirit because of who you are and the lot that fell on you. You're antithetical seed of Ishmael. So now, having said all that, I want to go back now to Hebrews chapter 8. And I want to start with verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Now, when is he going to make this new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah? Anybody know? Well, first place, you've got to get the house of Judah and the house of Israel, the 10 tribes, back together again. It'll be after you get the two great nations back together for the first time, since they were subjugated after Solomon's death. Okay? So when is that going to be? It's here in the 12th parabolic hour. So Adventists used to teach, and I used to be there and hear them say, well, he made the new covenant with us. He put the law in our hearts. Okay? So it says that he's going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. After antithetical David, in Ezekiel 37, joins them back together into one great nation that are part of the house of David. Then is when he will make the new covenant with them. And then when will that be? The 144,000. That's who he's going to renew, that make this new covenant with. That's what causes them to be perfect and to walk in his way in a perfect manner. Now, if Yahweh had made this new covenant with Rhodas W. Johnson, it would have done the same thing for him as it's doing for Moses. I mean, as it's doing for 144,000. It would have done the same thing for him. But he didn't renew that covenant with brothers. Brothers thought he did. You know what covenant that he renewed with brothers? He renewed that old covenant of the flesh of the Old Testament that he had made with fleshly Israel up to the cross. But it proved out. Brother Johnson followed exactly when he restored that sanctuary for the first 7 years. Everything was gold. Everything was green light. We all had a good time for 7 years. I was there, I know. We all were just turned on and excited about who we were and the message we had. Brother Johnson was too. And I can truly say the first 7 years that was the best time of our life to get that center. We all traveled together, we eat together, we went out to park together, we socialized together, we played music together, we went to places together, and we all treat each other like real brothers and sisters. But you know, after 7 years, it was all started declining, going downhill. Okay, the fun and games would begin to be over. The new head war. So he says, I'm going to make a new covenant with Israel and with the house of Judah, the house of David now, that's the house of David. Not according unto the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regard them not, saith Yahweh. Now, Brother Johnson made a covenant with Yahweh to teach my people my government. And he did a real good job for the first 7 years. I will say I was there. I mean, he did a very good job. He just really preached some great sermons. I got his tapes to back it up. I listened to many of them half a dozen times over. And I just like playing a new song. And so, truly, he was on top of his world. But because he didn't continue it, Yahweh regarded him not. When it comes time for his time to be up, then he regarded. So he says, for this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws in their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be unto them an Elohim, and they shall be unto me a people. Now we had members of our church pulled all through the years, so Deuteronomy 6:24 and 25. This is our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments. And one lady would say, by gum, this is my righteousness because I keep the feast days and I support Brother W. Johnson as a prophet and I pay my tithes and offerings here. This is my righteousness. We have righteousness. No, you don't. And verse 7, and they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Yahweh, for all shall know me from the least unto the greatest. For I will be merciful unto their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. And that he saith, a new covenant, and he hath made the first old, now that which decayeth and waxes old is ready to vanish away. Now, we got a little time here. Let's just go down in Hebrews chapter 9. Then verily the first covenant that also orders a divine service and a word of sanctuary. So now, all of those that were descendants of Ishmael today in our day, they only know how to operate under the first covenant. They know how to conduct themselves quite naturally like the Pharisees. They know how to do that by nature. And they do it because they're under the first covenant. Okay? For there was a tabernacle made the first, wherein was a candlestick and a table and a showbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant, overlaid round about with the gold, wherein was a golden pot that had the manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant, and over it the cherubims of the glory, shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly. Now when these things were thus ordained, the priest went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the services of the Elohim. But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the heirs of the people. Okay. And it says in verse 6, now when these things were thus ordained, the priest, the common priest, went always into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of Elohim. That was every day of the year except the Day of Atonement. But on the Day of Atonement, the high priest alone went in. Okay. Verse 8, for the Holy Spirit this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices, that could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining unto the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of the Reformation. In other words, until the time to reform under the new and living way with Yahshua. Verse 11, but Yahshua being come and high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made of the hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of the bulls and of the goats and the ashes of an heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctifieth unto the purifying of the flesh, now watch this, if the blood of the animal sanctifies to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of the Yahshua, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to Elohim, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? Now, if your conscience can be purged from dead works, then you can be in a position to serve the living Elohim. Okay? And when you get in that position, then you rise above sin in your life. You rise beyond the possibility of sin, because those dead works is the animals that you had to go get for a sacrifice when you committed sin and you were imperfect. But when you get your conscience purged from these dead works, in other words, you understand truth 100%, there's true light now. You have made 100% commitment now to serve Yahweh, when you get rid of all this here dead works in your life. And for, verse 15, and for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by the means of the dead, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testimony, that they which are called might receive the promise of the eternal inheritance. Only those who were called to receive the promise of the eternal inheritance were the only ones that Yahshua died for. And he died for the redemption of their transgressions. In other words, they made a record from Adam clear down to cross. All those that lived in his time, there was a record made of all the sins he committed and all the forgiveness that he got. And when the forgiveness outweighed the non-forgiveness, then he had a clean record. And that's what Yahshua died for the redemption of the transgressions that were on the first one. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of a testator. So all these righteous people of the Old Testament that followed the sanctuary system, the blood system of the animal, they left a testament on record. And so wherever they left their testament, then Yahshua, being the testator, when he came, he died so that his blood would cover all of those testaments that was recorded in the book of records for the Old Testament. It says right there. It says right there, where a testament is. Well, wherever there was a record book made of somebody that had followed the sanctuary and got their sins remitted by the blood of the animal, then they left their testament on record. Then Yahshua, when he come and died, he come and got those books of records, he opened them up and he saw all of those that were covered by the blood of the animal, because they had left their testament there. And now, there has to be the death then of the testator, in order to redeem those under the first covenant by his blood. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Okay? So now, if the people made a good record and they left a good testament, then it demanded Yahshua would have to redeem them by his blood when he come to do it. So that was the force of the true testament. Because they automatically got granted redemption by the blood of Yahshua. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. As long as he lives, he's still subject to sin and apostatize and lose out. He has to wait until his final testament is made to see how he ended up. Whereupon, now that the first testament was dedicated without blood. So anytime somebody come and made a record, and he brought his a lamb, his sin offering, to the outer court, in the court of altar of sacrifice in the outer court, and the sinner of a sin coming, the priest went out to meet him, and the man brought his lamb. He had to slay his own lamb. The priest caught the blood. Okay, so that blood was a recording of that sinner's testament, that he'd confessed his sins and he'd offered the sacrifice, the appropriate sacrifice, and then the blood, the priest goes in the first apartment with that blood, and he puts it upon the horns of the altar, and then he goes and writes in the book by this man. This is his testament. He sinned, he made a sacrifice for it, the blood has covered his sins, and it's on record now. And when the day will come when the great testator, Yahshua, will come, all those that have a good testament in those books, then they will automatically be covered by the blood of Yahshua. So now, we're going to close this service with Hebrews 10:14. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. Wherefore the Holy Spirit also is a witness unto us, for after that he had said before, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws in their hearts, and in their minds will I write them. And their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In other words, you come to the atonement, your testament you made was a perfect testament, and so he blots out your sins and he remembers your iniquities no more. So the great testator Yahshua is testating again for those who make testaments here in the new covenant. This brings the end of our study this hour. You can contact us at the 11th hour call, and that's number 11. We'll take on our audio archive here this minute. We're going to close out a song entitled Face to Face with Yahshua my Savior. Face to face with Yahshua my Savior. Face to face, what will it be? When with a rapture I behold him, Yahshua, who died for me. Face to face I shall behold him, far beyond the starry sky. Face to face in all his glory, I shall see him by and by. Only faintly now I see him, with the darkened veil between. But the blessed day is coming, when his glory shall be seen. Face to face I shall behold him, far beyond the starry sky. Face to face in all his glory, I shall see him by and by. What on rejoicing in his presence, when I banish grief and pain, when the crooked ways are straightened, and the dark things shall be plain. God. Face to face in all his glory, I shall see him by and by. Face to face, so blissful moment, face to see and know, face to face with my Redeemer, Yahshua, who loves me so. Face to face I shall behold him beyond the starry sky. Face to face in all his glory, I shall see him by